at the end of the day, a lot of it has to do with, do you have a formula? And then are you going to be willing to put in the work, right? For number one, consistently to see results.
It's awesome that you kind of ran into those pivotal sort of mentors so early on in the journey that kind of helped get you on that right path.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, Pete, but also that person that that executive you sat down with and put you at ease and gave you that at bat where you were able to connect with the ball, so to speak.
Yeah.
And once you did it once, you knew you could do it again. That's great advice. And I think just kind of sharing that help a lot of people who maybe have nerves in their conversations.
Yeah.
If they are interviewing for a job and they need to kind of get their nerves in check, what would you tell them as someone who's talked to a lot of people who are in much tougher conversations, right? Where you're cold calling people who aren't necessarily even planning on talking to you.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people to kind of calm their nerves and what sort of state of mind to be in for those conversations?
Yeah, I do. So it goes right into the next part of the journey here. So for the first 3 months when I was an SDR, I wasn't good at all. Like I was really bad. And so I just couldn't find what my system or process or my formula was. And I relied so heavily on what my knowledge of around social selling was, but I didn't rely it on like email writing and cold calling. Like I just neglected it because I was like, I don't really need it, which at the end of the day, looking back on it, made no sense why I thought that. And so what I will tell you is how I got comfortable cold calling and how I suggest other people get comfortable cold calling and how they get results is that it's all about what should you be doing before you make the call. It's not during the call, it's before, and a lot of that matters. And here's a couple things you can be doing. One is you need to have some type of song before you get into your cold calling. Now, this is the reason for this. This isn't random. It's not saying, hey guys, let's go rage. It's like, no, there's a reason on why I'm telling you to go play music. So I don't know how many people in here have played sports or listening in, but the sport I'm going to lean on is baseball. So if you play baseball or watch baseball, you know what I'm about to talk about. So before they get up to the plate, they have a song, a walk-up song.
Yep.
That song's goal is to get your mind to be like, all right, I'm coming up to bat. It's my time. So you need to do the same thing with cold calling to be like, hey, it's my time to call. Let me get focused. Let me get locked in. So you need to figure out what that song is. Again, I'm not going to tell you what song to pick. That's up to you. But
what's your song?
Oh, so my song is right. Actually, it changes, right? Because I could pick different songs, but right now It's Travis Scott, Stargazing. Like that's my song. Like that's my okay. Like I need to get focused.
Love it.
It used to be for a really long time. Meek Mill, Dreams and Nightmares. So that, I mean, like, that's just like classic, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is like, now I'm like Travis Scott, but the thing is like, I know when to change it based on how I'm feeling or whatever. And you got to figure that out as well. And I would say number 2 is you have to also realize that these people that you're calling are not going to come after you. They're not going to be like, oh, Matt, that call sucked. And they're going to fly to your office. Right, and be like, yo, and they're gonna make fun of you. That's just not gonna happen, right? So I always still tell people before you make a call, like realize that like no one's gonna remember you after 5 seconds, as long as you didn't say anything crazy, right?
Yeah.
If you just did your normal talk track like you should be, they're gonna forget you in 5 seconds and move on with their day.
Right.
So like once I adopted my mindset, I was like, this doesn't really matter. Like we're overthinking it. And I would say number 3 is just studying and knowing your personas. Like the more you're able to talk about your buyers and know the case studies and the stories, it's going to make you more successful. And then that's what I did. I mean, for the first year as an SDR, that's what I started getting better at. And so I'm very comfortable in those conversations. And I even created to go into the story though, I created a YouTube channel called the SDR Chronicles that documented my journey and talked about these things we're talking about right now so that people could feel more comfortable in their roles.
I love that. And I think it applies well beyond sales too. I mean, even just thinking about CEOs understanding the VC that they're talking to while raising money, or that executive looking to land that next big career move at a company that they're having a conversation with, knowing that persona, understanding how you want that conversation to go, what you want to get out of it. ahead of time. Those are three really great points. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And to round it all out, right? Because you said, how do we get to the sales trainer part? So once I became the SDR manager, I got promoted after a year. I had 13 reps that I managed, which, by the way, if you're a manager, like I would say the cap is 8. Like once you go past 8, it becomes incredibly difficult. I'm just gonna let you know, like I'm not 13, like 13, I was like, this is a lot of people. So that's just a side note. And then once I was able to be successful in that role, I was there for a year. I got approached by John Barrows, which if you haven't heard of him before, he's done sales training for the past 12 years. And he's trained companies as big as Salesforce, Slack, Google, all those people, all the way down to startups that are just starting. And so he approached me to come in and be a trainer. I had no intentions of ever being a sales trainer. It was not on my radar, but the way he staged it to me made sense. He was like, hey, you have to actively prospect, actively sell, and do the training. I wanted to learn more about selling and getting better at that skill set. So I was like, absolutely, let's do it. And also have someone who's been doing this for a while to be as a mentor. And also we've grown to be friends at this point as well. So that's how I got into this sales training, sales coaching world. And I've been doing that for the past 3 years. So I've trained Glassdoor, Snowflake. You guys probably saw that IPO recently. I got into there. Also Google, I've trained them, Slack, Salesforce, MindBody, all those different type of organizations.
And I'd love to dive in a little bit on some of the lessons learned on sales, even for those that are not in sales who are watching this. I think there's a lot to be learned about how those gigantic tech companies do sales well, and probably a lot to be learned, not just from what they do well, and you don't have to drop names, but also what they don't do well. I'm curious to know, what are some of the biggest mistakes that companies make when kind of building their own network of customers and prospects?
And so when you say building a network of prospects, is that more so like reaching out cold? Is that like asking for referrals? Because there could be different routes on that.
I think both. Honestly, I'm interested to know what you see isn't working right now. Where do you see people putting effort that is just not panning out?
That makes sense. So, I mean, number one, I've been talking about this a lot lately, and it's been really hitting home with people I've been talking to. And I want to talk about this here, is that consistent execution. And I believe that there's execution, right? Which is like, you're going to go do X thing based on whatever you've been given, right? A formula or a process or system. But where people make mistakes is they don't do it consistently. Mm-hmm. They do it like 2 days and then like, oh yeah, I feel good about it. And then it's like, okay, but what about the rest of the year? Right? What about for the next 5 years? Right? So it's consistent execution. I feel like that's a huge mistake. Number 2 is the connect and pitch. That's a massive mistake, is that you connect with someone, you copy and paste a huge novel and it's not relevant at all. When there's LinkedIn voice messages, there's videos that you can do. Like there's ways that you can stand out and not just send someone a whole block of text, right? Like come with a relevant reason on why you want to reach out. Again, for context, that could be something you saw on the website, something you saw on their LinkedIn, something you saw on Twitter. Like, I don't know, but the whole thing is that you have to come prepared with that information. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there and be like the other reps and make that mistakes when you're looking to connect with people. Just to connect and then immediately pitching someone is not going to be helpful. And I think number 3, a mistake that people make, and it goes with number 1, is that everyone's looking for a golden template or the magic formula on how to do this. And the thing is, like, across all organizations that I've worked with, and then also just with reps in general, like there are going to be people who look for the silver bullet and the magic formula. And the thing is, like, there is not one. There is no golden template that's out there that's going to help you convert. At the end of the day, a lot of it has to do with, do you have a formula? And then are you going to be willing to put in the work, right? For number 1, consistently to see results. Those are 3 things right off the bat that I see that lead into people not converting the way they need to convert, because a lot of it has to do with consistency. A lot of it has to do with, hey, are you being relevant and personalized and really standing out? Because if you're doing what everyone else is doing, then it's going to end up being where you're going to be like everyone else and not get the engagement you're looking for.